Monster Synthesis Master. Chapter 301. I've laid my cards on the table, you're surrounded. The team of 40 people was mighty. Bulletproof suit, anti-riot helmet, submachine gun, radio communication equipment. Their equipment was almost comparable to that of a regular army in Nyasha. The other members of the Kylin Hall also stood in the front hall and watched the expedition members leave. Not long after Link left with his men, the spies in Team 7 found an opportunity to spread the news of Kylin Hall's expedition. A fully armed team of 40 people would have no problem fighting against a small army, not to mention a motley crew like the Matthew gang. Soon, the major forces received this piece of information and were all dumbfounded. When did Link buy all these military supplies? This scale and skill level was no longer a gang war. It was clearly a dimensional crush. There were 3 large trucks in front of Kylin Hall. 2 of them were used to transport the gang members, and the other one was tightly sealed. No one knew what was inside. The exhaust of the large truck spewed out thick black smoke and drove out of the alley with the roar of the engine, heading straight for the garbage dump. They were fully armed from head to toe and had the mysterious item that their boss could bring back the dead in the backyard. These were the confidence of many thugs. Sitting in the back of the truck, he held the gun with both hands, his eyes firm, and his body was surging with killing intent. The other forces had already investigated the matter thoroughly. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on the 3 trucks. Only the other party of this incident, the Matthew gang, didn't realize that danger was approaching at all because of the uneven quality of its members and the messy management of the gang. It wasn't until the 3 large trucks stopped at a 3-way junction along the main road that the surrounding passers-by saw this scene and were all amazed by it. There were many large trucks going to and from the garbage dump every day, but the large truck in front of him was rare. "Bob, let's start clearing the area," Link ordered calmly from the back seat. Bob immediately put a loudspeaker on the top of the big truck, then shouted into the walkie-talkie, "The Kylin Hall is handling business. Unrelated people, leave quickly." When the surrounding townsfolk heard the noise, they all pointed and whispered to each other, but none of them showed any signs of leaving. Soon, fully armed thugs came down from the truck and stood on the side of the truck. They blocked the main road and cleared the area. The passers-by who were just waiting to watch the show were now pale with fright and fled in all directions in panic. The members of the Matthew Society in the crowd were already scared out of their wits when they saw this scene. The Kylin Hall had come here to make a move against the Matthew Guild. The thugs were wearing bulletproof vests, helmets, and goggles, and they were holding submachine guns. He looked at himself. The revolver in his hand was from a second-hand shop. He didn't know how many hands it was. This difference in combat power made the fighters of the Matthew gang lose their desire to fight. With a pale face and trembling legs, he followed the crowd and hid in an alley with difficulty. He took out his phone from his pocket with trembling hands and called his boss. "Boss, Link is here with his men. There are 3 trucks and about 40 people. They're all armed to the teeth and are comparable to an army." On the other end of the phone, Matthew's tone was calm, and he even smiled. "I know. The members you've gathered outside, prepare to surround us from behind." Do. The thug wanted to say something, but the call had already been hung up. With such a difference in equipment, even the core strength of the Freemasonry and the Hidden Alliance can't fight to such an extent. The hatchet man peeked from the corner of the wall. The 40-man team followed their orders, and the aura they emitted was no different from that of the shadow troops. Just by facing him, he gave off a feeling that he was difficult to defeat. The pedestrians on the main road fled, and the merchants on the side of the road also locked their doors and drew their curtains. In less than 3 minutes, the entire street was empty. All the doors and windows of the shops on the side of the road were closed, and there was a lot of garbage on the ground that had not been disposed of. Only the dim yellow street lights were shining on the ground, giving people a sense of desolation of the economic depression. Bob and Link alighted from the truck one after another. 3 large trucks were arranged at the front and back, leaving only a 1-meter gap between the vehicles. "Boss, it's a little cold tonight. Please put on some clothes." Bob brought a black trench coat and put it on Link, making him look like he was walking in the wind. Link walked in front, with Bob and the 40 warriors behind him. They headed straight for the Matthews Guild's base camp. At the fork in the road became narrower and the street lights were sparse. Many of the street lights were either broken or flashing. The headquarters of the Matthews Society was in a shanty town between the garbage dump and the water treatment plant. When they passed the three-way fork, Link saw an inn in the corner with a crooked door plate. He had an idea. "Fu and I escaped from the Wasteland Gang's territory and stayed in this hotel on our first night in Shandu. Bob, you go with the others. I'm going to walk around the hotel." Bob was stunned for a moment before asking, "Boss, I'll arrange some people for you." "You're arranging guards for me," Link laughed. "So who's protecting me or the guard?" Bob was stunned. Thinking of his boss's terrifying combat power and record, he simply gave up. Link entered the inn alone, but he didn't go to room 505 to reminisce. What he said earlier was just an excuse. Link quickly reached the rooftop and saw Bob and his men storming into the slums. The shantytown was brightly lit at night. Under the shelter of the shantytown boards, light passed through the gaps between the garbage dump and the water treatment plant, forming a dazzling galaxy of stars. Link stood at the edge of the rooftop and looked into the distance. His black coat fluttered in the wind as he caressed the treasure-hunting mouse in his hands. He looked like a mafia boss. Suddenly, an irregular rustling sound of wind came from behind. "You've made a mistake by choosing to come here alone." Link didn't even turn his head. His lips curled into a smile. "You're here. You guessed I was coming. If I wasn't waiting for you, why would I find such an open space?" Da-da-da-da. Gunshots were heard in the slums. The members of the Matthew Association and the people of the Kylan Hall were already engaged in a fierce battle. If Link also entered the slums and fought with Matthew, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. If he didn't hold back, the residents of the slums would be in trouble. Link had come to the rooftop because he was sure that Matthew would come. "Perhaps you don't know yet, but it was a mistake for you to bring 40 people here today." Matthew's tone had a hint of joy. Today, not only would he defeat Link, but he would also destroy the Kylan Hall. "I'm afraid you don't know this, but I'm not the only one in the entire Sand City who wants you dead. They're all here today." Hearing this, Link turned to look at Matthew, his face full of joy. "It's good that you've come, it's good that you've come. Then I'll lay my cards on the table. You're all surrounded by me." Chapter 302. No one knows how to mess with people better than me. Matthew laughed. "I've finally found something that you're better at than me. At least in terms of humor, I'm not as good as you." 40 people, including Link, dared to say that they would surround them. "I don't mind telling you that the Freemasonry, Dasaki, and the Secret Alliance have all sent teams to deal with you. You won't be able to escape today." Link continued to stroke the treasure-hunting mouse, his smile finally fading. "I originally wanted to take you under my command, but it seems that's impossible now. Since you can't be my friend, then you're my enemy." As soon as Link finished speaking, the treasure-hunting mouse sensed the killing intent and hid in Link's pocket. "You're still boasting even now," Matthew said with a smirk. "You really won't shed tears until you see the coffin." Matthew raised a hand, and 3 green laser beams instantly landed on Link. In the 3 buildings in the distance, there was a sniper in position. As the hall master of the Kylan Hall, you can't even dodge a sniper rifle, can you? Although I've agreed to the other forces' plan to ambush you, you'll have to die by my hands today, Matthew said in a strange tone. Matthew's strange laughter faded, and his expression became extremely serious. "Ah!" There was a flurry of cell calls from downstairs. Link saw many thugs rush out from the darkness and rush towards the shantytown. From the uniform of the thugs, it could be clearly identified that there were the Hidden Alliance, the Freemasonry, and Dasaki. The gunshots in the slums were even more intense. Link followed the sound and could see the flames of the explosion. The layout of the shanty town was complicated, and the 40 members led by Bob were all carefully selected. Their equipment was comparable to that of a regular army. Although there were only 40 of them, it shouldn't be a problem for them to withstand the attack of over 100 people in such a narrow space. What about the experts sent by the other forces? Don't tell me they only sent these small fries. What's the difference between this and sending them to their deaths? Link was calm and composed. He wanted to know everyone's location at once. Matthew had his hands crossed in front of his chest, and Link could see the dagger at his waist. Matthew was pacing calmly on the rooftop. This is my deal with them. They can only make a move when I'm defeated, but I obviously won't give them the chance to make a move. Ha, you're just the boss of the Matthew upstart, and you can actually make 3 major forces obediently listen to you? They can't refuse, Matthew shrugged. If they don't agree to my request, I'll tell you about their ambush. They will lose this precious chance to kill you. The treasure-hunting mouse was frantically pointing in his pocket. Link now knew where the commanders of the 3 factions were. They were in the building with the sniper. Link took out his phone from his pocket and made a call in front of Matthew. Quinton, you can bring your men out now. Soon, uniform trotting sounds came from downstairs. Quinton appeared with 40 fully armed thugs and charged toward the shanty town. Matthew's expression remained the same, but the faces of the people in charge of the 3 major forces on the tall building suddenly changed. The intelligence report had shown that Link had only brought 40 people with him. Now, he had twice the number and was even like the mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the aureole behind. Once this group of people entered the shanty town, they would form a pincer attack. The Alliance army, which was poorly equipped and loosely organized, would definitely suffer heavy losses. Reinforcements, the front line requests for reinforcements. On the rooftop, a huge, demonic blood moon hung high in the night sky. Matthew took out a dagger from his waist after Link hung up. There's no need for you to struggle no matter how many people you call over today, as long as you die, those motley crew will be defeated like a mountain. As long as I kill you today, all your honor and influence will become the stepping stone for my rise. I can prove that I'm stronger than you. Matthew's eyes were burning with passion. Lin K had only seen such an intense desire in the eyes of an LP. Do you know what you look like right now? Like a child who is extremely eager for an adult's recognition and creates some outrageous incidents to gain attention. Link's tone was filled with mockery, and the battle intent in his eyes gradually faded. He asked casually, "You can gain honor and influence by killing me? Are you thinking of Peach? Can you create the fragrant pig feast? Can you think of the live stream of the guild member selection? You can create the popular pet hamster in Shandu, the 3 lucky treasures. You can't do any of them. What makes you think you can have the same influence as me? I've looked through the various decisions and matters after the establishment of the Matthew Gang. You can't even manage 40 to 50 subordinates well, and you can't even choose a gang manager. You have to do everything by yourself. When your territory gets bigger, won't you become an old bull and run around all day to solve problems?" Link said a lot in one breath, and the last breath was the critical hit. "That's why I said that you're only suitable to be a sharp blade under the ruler. Don't ever dream of becoming me." Matthew's face was ashen. Link's verbal attack had already broken through his defenses. The leaders of the 3 factions on the distant building couldn't help but click their tongues in wonder when they heard Link's words. Link's mouth is really poisonous. Anyone would have a mental breakdown if they heard those words. The key is that there's no way to refute these questions, not a single one. I'm guessing Matthew's mind has already exploded. Now that Matthew's mental state has collapsed, I don't think the battle will go smoothly. Sniper, listen to my command, aim and shoot now. The commander of the Freemasonry this time was an elder in red. He was squatting on a tall building, wearing a sound wave receiver on his head, holding a telescope and staring at the roof. The sniper held his breath and focused his eyes on the crosshair on his scope. The crosshair was on Link's head. Fire! Under the command of the Elder in Red, the sniper pulled the trigger, and the bullet shot out of the barrel, making a sharp whistling sound. Link was prepared for it. He tilted his head to the side, and the sniper bullet whizzed past his ear, his head buzzing. The next second, a whistle arrow flew out of Link's sleeve. It went back in the direction the bullet had come from, piercing through the scope, eyeball, and skull. Whoosh! Whoosh! Without waiting for the snipers in the other two buildings to react, the other sentry arrows also hit their heads. Although the damage was not enough to kill the sniper instantly, it pierced the eye and they could no longer carry out the sniper mission. It seems that they don't care about you at all. Link mocked. Matthew was taken aback, and his face turned the color of a pig's liver. He let out a loud roar and charged at Link. It was so fast that even Link was shocked. Chapter 303 Enjoy the feast I've prepared for you. Link's agility had reached 93 points, but Matthew's speed was almost on par with his. It was impossible to detect the other party's level when they were in an opposing state and were not fighting. So in Link's system, other than his name, Matthew's other names were. Now, this guy's speed was so fast that he was almost as fast as Link. Was this the standard of a small gang leader? Link retreated quickly, but he didn't forget to mock Matthew. I'm anxious, I'm anxious. As he spoke, he took out a magic box pistol from behind his waist and fired a storm of bullets. Matthew's body came to a sudden stop, and his dagger flew towards Link like a bolt of lightning. This level of attack was useless against Link. No one knew more about hidden weapons than Link. He simply tilted his head and dodged the attack. But the next second, Matthew suddenly disappeared and reappeared behind Link. Bang bang bang! The daggers danced like broken flowers and flashing blades, and the cold glints gathered to form a blooming flower. Weave. Nano Battlesuit absorbs 123 damage. Nano Battlesuit absorbs 158 damage. Nano Combat Suit has absorbed enough damage. It cannot absorb any further damage. When Link saw the dagger throw and teleportation, the memory box in his mind was immediately opened. There was only one dagger that could teleport on Wasteland Planet in version 1.0. This dagger can be connected to the host's body and spirit, allowing the host to teleport to the location of the dagger at any time. Because of its powerful abilities, it had been the #1 weapon on the list of epic weapons on Wasteland Planet since the day it was discovered by players. It first appeared on Moro's personal secretary, Kohler. Later, Kohler was killed by the plot, and this dagger accidentally passed into the hands of an assassin player called Defiant Serpent God. It began to shine. It was a soul-bound epic weapon with powerful attributes and special effects that even surpassed the template of epic weapons. It was regarded by players as a supermodel weapon that was comparable to legendary weapons. Players also affectionately gave this weapon a name, Jumping Blade. The Defiant Snake God, who had obtained the Kohler's dagger, rose up from the ordinary players and became one of the 3 giants of Wasteland Planet. He won the championship of the first Interstellar Professional League. Interesting. Moro's personal secretary, Kohler, is actually hiding in the slums and becoming the boss of a small gang. Link's lips curled into a smile. His eyes were full of mockery. Kohler's body trembled, and his eyes were filled with fear. He had come to the slums under a different name just to prove that he was no weaker than Link. Only his boss, Moro's, knew this. But now, he was called out by Link as soon as he made a move. A chill ran down Kohler's spine. While Kohler was still in a daze, Link released all the accumulated damage from the nano battlesuit. The nano battlesuit on his body released a powerful energy wave with Link as the center. Kohler suddenly felt as if his lungs had been stepped on by a group of elephants, and his ribs were cracking. Your nano battlesuit has dealt 750 points of damage to Kohler. The entire rooftop was in chaos, and Kohler frowned as if he was facing a great enemy. Link was even more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. He had used backstab like crazy, but Link seemed to be fine. Instead, he was the one who suffered. At this time, Link checked again and finally saw Kohler's information card. Name, Kohler. Race, human. Level 35 plus, elite. Occupation, pugilist phantom assassin. Identity, Moreau's personal secretary, leader of Matthew's guild. HP, 2750/3500. Skills, backstab, surprise attack, others unknown. It was a level 35 elite, the highest level elite that Lin Ke had ever seen. Since you know so much, I can't let you leave here alive today. After Kohler said that, his entire body disappeared into the darkness with a whoosh. The slums were the land of chaos in Shandu. When it was first built, the three kings had a clear agreement that they could not reach their hands into the slums and affect the situation. Although the military, Moros, and the underground black market were constantly playing tricks, everyone had the same idea and did not point it out. However, once the news of Kohler changing his appearance and establishing his own power in the slums spread, it would definitely affect Moros. Kohler had already wanted to kill Link to clear his name. Now, he had another reason to kill him. Stealth allowed most of his body to enter the void plane, leaving only a small portion in the real world. The signature skill of the lurker, there was no other. The phantom assassin's stealth was even harder to detect. However, Link just smiled and used the legendary Mirror Man to enter stealth. Kohler was shocked when he saw Link disappear. He didn't expect Link to be able to use stealth. From the start, Link had been giving him more and more pressure. Link's strange moves were also hard to guard against. Kohler moved quietly, trying to find Link in the dark. The three people in charge of the forces who were supervising the battle from the tall building were all shocked when they saw the two of them suddenly disappear. The telescope searched the rooftop inch by inch, but it could not find the two at all. Damn it, where are they? The person in charge's forehead was full of sweat, and his back was drenched in sweat, soaking his clothes. He'd made a military order to the leader that he'd join forces with the other three forces to kill Link today. If Link escaped, he'd go back with his head. The leaders of the three forces all had the same expression on their faces. They took out their phones in panic and urged reinforcements to surround the building. They couldn't let Link escape. Link was still playing hide-and-seek with Kohler on the rooftop. But very quickly, Kohler found Link's tracks. Although the 86% imitation was realistic, there was still a gap compared to the original. Kohler was looking for an opportunity to get close to Link and stab him in the back. In Kohler's eyes, Link was like a headless fly. He didn't have any professional assassin skills. The worry and fear from before slowly disappeared at this moment, turning into peace of mind. Kohler held his dagger in reverse and walked to a position about 3 feet away from Link. The dagger's cold glint disappeared under his stealth and stabbed towards Link. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Link suddenly turned around and used haste to avoid the backstab. With Throat Crusher in his left hand and the magic box pistol in his right hand, he headed straight for Kohler's middle. Although Link couldn't see Kohler in stealth, it also greatly reduced the presence of metal. However, the treasure-hunting mouse had a keen sense of smell for metal. It could still sense the faint smell of metal in the air that was approaching and locked onto Kohler's position. Just as Link and Kohler were exchanging blows, Link heard a large number of footsteps gathering downstairs. Groups of thugs with weapons surrounded the triangle building at the fork in the road. Clang! Throat Crusher and Kohler's dagger collided, creating a burst of sparks, and the two of them were separated. This time, you won't be able to escape even if you have wings. Kohler grinned hideously. How can you be so sure that I didn't wait for them to come? Link asked, smiling. Link scanned the area below him. Under the light, there were at least 200 thugs. In order to kill me, you guys really took great pains. Since you're all here, enjoy the feast I've prepared for you." With that, Link whistled. Whoosh! In the distance, a rumbling sound came from the big truck that blocked the road. Chapter 304 Pets on the field, each displaying their strengths. King Kong pushed open the trunk of the big truck. The macaw took the lead and shouted, "Pet Alliance, attack!" After saying that, he jumped out of the car and landed face first. His metal beak completely sank into the ground, and he used his mouth to dry a hole in the asphalt road. After King Kong got off the car, he pinched the macaw's body and pulled it out. The swarm of invisible killer bees quickly disappeared into the night sky. The Silver Army ants carried the worker and soldier ants and rushed to the main battlefield. Link wasn't just joking when he said that he'd laid his cards on the table. This time, it could be said that all the elites had been deployed. King Kong, Macaw, Sand Eagle family of 4, Treasure-seeking rat, Rat Secret Service team, Self-destructing fly, Self-destructing rat team, Skeleton wolf, Hellhound, Rubber python, Invisible killer bee, Black widow, Illusionary vine, Silver army ant, Obsidian vanguard, Black tornado, Gargoyle, Hydraulic press hippopotamus, Colorful fungus butterfly, Water arrow turtle, all of them were dispatched. According to Link, "I'm not going to pretend anymore. Show hand." The macaw took out its sunglasses and put them on. Then, it flew to the roof of the big truck and acted as the military advisor of the Pet Alliance. The Sand Eagle immediately flew to the sky and circled around, reporting the current situation and battle situation. Rat Secret Agent Team, you will lead the Self-destructing Flies and Self-destructing Rats team. While the Invisible Killer Bees and Silver Army Ants are attracting the attention of the enemy, carry out a carpet bombing on the enemy camp and destroy their formation to buy time for the vanguard. Old Shat, take your family and create obstacles in the crowd. Then, the Obsidian Vanguard, the Hippo of the Hydraulic Press, and the Black Tornado will charge forward. We must destroy them. After this, you guys can do whatever you want. The gargoyles will hold the fort. King Kong, go to the boss on the rooftop and see if you need any help. After we've dealt with the battlefield downstairs, Rubber Python, Illusion Vine, Black Widow, Skeleton Wolf, and Hellhound, go to the shanty town. You can make full use of the advantage of your small size there and engage in guerrilla warfare." After the macaw finished speaking, it flapped its wings. "All right, this is the first official battle of our Pet Alliance. Everyone, get your spirits up and attack." Following the macaw's command, the wild beasts rushed out of the truck and rushed to the tall building at the fork in the road. The first wave of invisible killer bees and Silver Army ants had arrived. This was the first time since the establishment of the slums that three forces, who hated each other, had joined forces because of a common threat. At this moment, the bouncers were holding their guns and staring at the roof. If Link wanted to jump down from the building, they could shoot him at the first moment. However, before they could reach Link, they noticed a faint silver light floating in the air. Then, silver powder with a metallic luster fell from the sky. The Silver Army ants were scattered over the heads of the thugs. "Hey, what's this?" The thugs felt something fall on their bodies and reached out to catch it. Under the streetlight, they saw that it was an ant the size of a rice grain, emitting a silver metallic luster. The Silver Army ants bit down on his hand, and the intense pain made many of the thugs scream. The invisible killer bees also began to shoot their poisonous stingers. The hatchet men who were close to each other suddenly cried out in pain. The crowd panicked and was in a constant commotion. Before the thugs could react, 3 sandstorms suddenly swept through the sky, completely burying one side of the building. The person in charge standing at the top of the building was dumbfounded. He remembered the file about Link and immediately shouted, "These are the flying beasts controlled by Link. Shoot them down." The 3 sandstorms gradually converged and turned into a super strong sandstorm with a diameter of 15 meters. Among them, Little Poison's poisonous sand released a numbing poison. All the thugs in the circle were paralyzed and slowed down, unable to escape. The biting of ants, the invisible poisonous bee's poisonous needle, and the sudden strong sandstorm instantly stunned the hatchet men. The person in charge of the high-rise building shouted until his throat was hoarse, but it was already a mess below. All kinds of shouts were endless, and no one could hear the high-rise building's orders. Kohler glanced downstairs. The hundreds of thugs who had been aggressive just now were now in a mess. Link, on the other hand, had a disdainful smile on his face, as if to say, "Show me what you have. Look carefully, this is just an appetizer." As soon as Link finished speaking, there was a fire and an explosion in the sandstorm. The flames flickered, and self-destructing flies and rats scuttled into the crowd. The flustered thugs stepped on the self-destructing rats and immediately triggered an explosion, causing broken limbs to be scattered everywhere. When the sandstorm ended, Little Five of the Rat Secret Agent team waved his claws and quickly disappeared into the darkness with the self-destructing flies and rats, running toward the wider shanty town. After the explosion, the ground was covered with all kinds of broken limbs and remains. Some of the thugs had their legs blown off in the panic and fell to the ground after being stepped on. At this moment, their chests were caved in, their arms were twisted, and half of their skulls were crushed. Red blood mixed with white brain matter flowed all over the ground. An atmosphere of fear spread among the thugs. "Steady, maintain the formation, maintain the formation." The person in charge stood on the tall building and shouted with all his might. Boom! 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 At this moment, a muffled sound wave came from the ground in the distance, and the ground could also feel a slight tremor. Kohler turned back to take a look, and his pupils suddenly contracted. A giant scorpion with a black mirror-like smooth shell, like a small armored vehicle, with two scorpion pincers that looked ferocious and terrifying, as if they could directly snap a person in half at the waist, went straight for the hatchet man. Behind it was an even larger hippopotamus, its bloody mouth spewing black smoke of engine oil. It was no exaggeration to say that it could bite an adult with one bite. Moreover, the hippopotamus was accelerating all the way, and the terrible impact was enough to kill people on the spot. The scalp-numbing roar and the trembling of the earth were also its masterpieces. The third muscular man, King Kong, didn't need to be said. Under the blood moon and the street lights, his firm metal muscles were clearly visible. The gorilla's basketball-sized fist, which was made of pure metal, looked like it was full of explosive power. If this punch hit him, he would probably be crippled if not dead. The fourth animal was a tall black horse. It was one of the few normal animals they had seen today. However, it was this tall horse that was neighing excitedly. Tap 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 tap. The frequency of his horse stance gradually increased, and his speed also became faster. The horse mane on his body fluttered in the wind, looking extremely graceful. The black whirlwind hissed and ran about 100 meters away from the hatchet man. In the form of the son of wind, his body melded with the dark night, turning into a black shadow. The strong wind around his body formed two tornadoes that reached the sky and attacked the hatchet man. Quick, shoot! Shoot! The person in charge at the top saw the scene in front of him and gritted his teeth. Chapter 305 The First Appearance of the Buddha's Light. After the person in charge finished shouting, he looked at the screaming crowd. The Allied forces had been stunned by the first wave of insect attacks and explosions. Now, countless men were injured and killed. The strong smell of blood, wailing, and broken limbs were everywhere. The scene was like hell. It would be strange if this group of people could hear him in this situation. He punched the window frame fiercely and quickly left the room, running downstairs. Although they had to keep an eye on Link, the 200-strong Allied army was about to become cannon fodder. They were the main force. Not to mention the other forces, he had to do his best to protect the people of his own forces. The speed of the black whirlwind was shocking. Kohler had been with Moros for 6 years and had seen all kinds of rare beasts. But such a fast horse, this kind of speed, was only seen on the unicorn Pegasus in the Colosseum. The heavenly horse galloped with the power of light, while the black horse below galloped with the power of wind. The two destructive tornadoes behind him were even more terrifying. When the thugs saw the black war horses charging at them, their first reaction was to run. Those who reacted faster squatted by the side and raised their guns to shoot. The muzzle of the gun was like a fire dragon, but not a single bullet could catch up with Black Tornado, who had entered the state of Son of Wind. When Black Tornado was about to rush into the crowd, a blue electric light suddenly appeared around his body. He switched from the Child of the Wind state to an electric star, and just when people thought he had reached the limit of his speed, he soared again. Wherever he stepped on the ground, lightning would flash like a dragon. A path of electricity that glowed like an LED light belt surged, and the electric light spread to both sides like vines. The thugs who couldn't dodge in time were electrocuted, and their bodies convulsed and trembled, turning into the king of the dance floor. The two tornadoes that followed immediately rushed into the crowd and wreaked havoc. Many people were directly swept into the eye of the wind and blown into the air. Lin Kei's system also started to display kill notifications and experience points. Link then looked at the dumbfounded Kohler and asked, "This is what you meant by dead?" Kohler was rendered speechless by Link's mockery. He had been working for Moros for 6 years and had seen all kinds of things. Furthermore, Kohler had also killed his way out of the slums with one knife to get his boss's favor. However, this was a one-sided massacre, and they were being slaughtered by all kinds of strange beasts. The thugs who had decent combat power seemed to have lost their spirit here and were reduced to wheat and leeks waiting to be harvested. They could only passively wait for the beast's sickles to swing down. However, it's not wrong to put it in another way. Today is the day you die. As soon as he finished speaking, King Kong had already climbed up the window and jumped onto the roof. The metal on his body trembled, and there was a trace of Sanskrit. Amitabha. If you want to fight with Master, you'll have to get past me first. King Kong's tone was gentle and elegant, and his face was calm. However, when he said this, there was a feeling of anger in his eyes, and his aura instantly surged. The tactical eyepiece in his right eye began to scan Kohler in front of him as he murmured, "This person isn't weak. His combat power is estimated to be at least 2,000. Link saw King Kong standing in front of him. The Obsidian Vanguard and the Hippo from the hydraulic press had also rushed into the crowd. One was a road hog, while the other was a big mouth. They activated their cleaner mode and ran over the crowd. Thinking that it wasn't easy for King Kong to fight, Link decided to use this as the test for King Kong's recent practice of Buddhism. "I only have one request, don't let him escape. With treasure-seeking mouse and old Cher here, he won't be able to escape," King Kong said with a smile. Seeing this, Link changed his target. He landed on the person in charge on a tall building. Shoot the horse before shooting the man, capture the king before capturing the bandits. Seeing Link's gaze on him, the person in charge of the high-rise building broke out in a cold sweat, his face pale. Whoosh! With a whistle, the 3 arrows returned to their positions. Link then rushed up the building. Kohler had been ignored by Link, and now the metal gorilla was blocking his way. He was filled with anger and murderous intent. The value of King Kong's right eye's tactical eyepiece suddenly rose sharply, and Kohler's combat power soared from 2,000 to 3,000 plus. What a strong killing intent! What terrifying combat strength! King Kong put his palms together with a bang, and his eyes were as big as Copper Bell's furious King Kong. For a moment, a strong magnetic field was condensed around his body, which produced a strong attraction force to the metal on the roof. The iron frames on the ground and the broken steel pipes made clanking sounds. When the metal came into contact with King Kong's skin, it all melted into liquid and was absorbed into King Kong's body. His body enlarged at a speed visible to the naked eye. Kohler was furious, but he didn't dare to let his guard down when he saw such a strange steel gorilla. He had only fought with humans before and had never had the experience of fighting wild beasts, let alone this kind of mutated beast. The King Kong's body was already huge, and after absorbing it, its size had reached an exaggerated level. Almsgiver, take this. King Kong's entire body was made of metal. It looked heavy, but when it jumped, it was like a swallow returning to its forest, like a dragonfly touching the water. It was extremely light and agile. A faint yellow Buddhist light surrounded his palm, accompanied by waves of Sanskrit chanting. It was like a thunderbolt, and by the time Kolar reacted, his entire body was already covered by the palm aura, as if he was bound in a coffin's body, unable to extricate himself. Damn it! Kolar casually threw the dagger at King Kong, but King Kong didn't dodge it. The dagger hit King Kong's body and made a trembling sound before being bounced to the side. Kolar, who was under the attack of the palm, suddenly disappeared into thin air and appeared at the position of the dagger in the next moment. He aimed at King Kong's back and stabbed him. Rib! The dagger's sharp edge burst into bright sparks, and with the grinding of sour teeth, it only left a faint white mark under the moonlight. Kolar's dagger, which had always been successful and terrifying, was now useless against King Kong. It couldn't even break King Kong's defense. Kolar's heart sank, but what made him even more desperate was yet to come. King Kong had turned around at some point, and the Vajra palm hit his shoulder from an extremely awkward and unbelievable angle. In an instant, a numbing feeling from being struck by lightning spread through half of Kolar's body. He flew out like a kite with a broken string and smashed hard into the wall. I was too careless. Kolar gritted his teeth and got up, a few streams of blood flowing out of the corner of his mouth. The palm just now almost shattered his bones. Kolar wiped the blood off with his sleeve. It seemed that he had to show the Phantom Assassin's true skills. Forbidden. Phantom Power Upanishad Multi-Shadow Clone. Suddenly, 5 black shadows that looked similar to Kolar rose from the ground around him. The crickets scuttled around and quickly surrounded King Kong. Phantom Thousand Blade Release. The 5 black shadows, as well as Kolar, who had turned into a shadow, all rushed toward King Kong. The air was as sticky as a swamp, making it difficult for people to breathe. Link had just killed the person in charge of the Dasaki gang in the tall building when he suddenly felt a murderous aura outside the window. He leaned on the window and looked. 6 shadows attacked King Kong in the position of a 6-pointed star. Vajra, dodge! Link waved his hand, and 3 whistle arrows shot out. However, they were not as fast as the black figure. At this critical moment, Vajra, who was in the middle of the strangulation circle, put his palms together and a swastika on his chest lit up. The sound of Sanskrit formed 4 words: the first appearance of Buddha's light. Chapter 306 Dark Paladin. Suddenly, King Kong's hands were facing upwards, his palms facing the sky. A burst of dazzling golden light suddenly burst out from the back of his head, chasing away the dark night and lighting up half the sky. The macaw, who was lying on a rattan chair on top of a big truck to supervise the battle, took off its sunglasses in surprise and said, "Oh my God, is this King Kong standing on the rooftop? Why is there such a huge Buddhist light?" The light of Buddha disappeared in a flash, and the darkness gained the upper hand again. Vajra surrounded him, and all the black shadow clones were killed. The first move of the Buddha's palm appeared. King Kong wore the Buddhist altar and sarira and studied the Buddhist scriptures every day. He combined the barrier-breaking effect of the Buddhist altar and sarira, the glaring King Kong in the Buddhist scriptures, and the light of Buddha to form this first appearance of the light of Buddha. Extreme light countered extreme shadow. However, at this moment, Vajra felt a thick murderous aura above his head, which was overwhelming. Looking up, he saw that Kolar's body was burning with black flames. He held the dagger in one hand, and the other hand was firmly on the handle of the dagger, as if he wanted to nail the dagger firmly into King Kong's skull. In the King Kong tactical eyepiece, Kolar's combat power had already soared to 5,000. Unable to dodge in time, he could only raise his arm to defend. At the critical moment, a burst of metal clanged, and a high-frequency hum echoed over the entire 3-way intersection. Link groaned, and the black flames climbed up the dagger onto his body like a venomous cobra. His body was engulfed in flames, and his health points began to decrease. Link gritted his teeth and controlled the 3 arrows to attack Kohler from behind, forcing him to retreat. Then, with a loud roar, his protective dipper energy shook away all the black flames. In just 2 seconds, Link had lost more than 300 HP. A level 35 elite, this was terrifying. When did you learn how to use the first Buddhist light? Link asked curiously. I've been studying Buddhism for a long time, and I'm also wearing a Buddhist shrine and sara. It's only natural that I'm devoted to Buddhism, King Kong replied honestly. Now, even his words carried a hint of Buddhism. However, Link was glad that he didn't combine the King Kong with the baldacchino directly. Instead, he kept it with him every day. In just a short period of time, Vajra began to evolve on his own and successfully created the first move of the Buddha's palm, the first emergence of Buddhist light. If he were to continue evolving, wouldn't he be able to comprehend all 9 moves of the Buddha's palm? Link glanced downstairs again. The mental defenses of the thugs had been completely destroyed. The pets were now in the final stage. Link's eyes focused on Kohler again, and he grinned. You said at the start that you wouldn't be able to escape even if you had wings. I'll return it to you without moving. Vajra moved again and fought with Kohler, his fists and feet wide open and fair. A level 10 dark blue grade pet was actually suppressing a level 35 elite NPC. The scene was quite amusing. Link entered the pet interface to check King Kong's current attributes. He was shocked to find that King Kong had risen to level 15 without him knowing. He also had a new skill, Buddha's palm, incomplete. Kohler racked his brains and used all the methods he could think of to leave countless wounds on the metal body. King Kong's back was covered with dense scratches, which looked ferocious and terrifying. Kohler wasn't doing too well either. After taking a few punches from King Kong, Link detected that he only had 1480 HP left. This guy has been stabbed so many times, but he doesn't look weak at all. I can't see any traces of circuit boards or wires in his body after cutting it open, so I can rule out the possibility of him being a robot. Kohler analyzed calmly, but he couldn't find a way to break out of this situation. Link's pets were too strange. They were completely different from the wild beasts that common sense knew. They always had many strange abilities. This was only one of the steel gorillas. Link was still standing on the side, ready to attack at any moment. The Allied army was defeated by the Beast Army. The 3 forces' joint attack on Link could be said to be a complete failure. Link could easily defeat them all. Kohler thought that if he continued to fight, his situation would only become worse as the other wild beasts joined the battle. Perhaps even Tao Wu wouldn't be able to escape. Kohler's eyes flashed. He threw the dagger in his hand and flew past King Kong, heading straight for Link. At the same time, the hand hidden behind his back threw a dagger in the opposite direction. Seeing Kohler's actions, a throwing knife appeared in Link's hand and he flew straight at the dagger in front of him. He held the magic box pistol in front of him, constantly on guard against Kohler's dagger. The 3 arrows then flew towards the dagger. All these actions were completed in a flash. The sound of metal hitting metal rang out, and Kohler instantly appeared in the distance where the dagger was. This guy was preparing to escape. However, before Kohler could do anything else, the whistling arrow whistled through the air and pierced through Kohler's calf, causing blood to burst out 3 times. In the next second, Link's magic box pistol fired rapidly. The magic box paintball with poison attributes hit Kohler's back, instantly knocking him to the ground from the air. The first thing Kohler did after he fell to the ground was to hide in the void and go into stealth. However, in less than a second, the poison took effect and pulled him back to reality. Link walked forward with a smile on his face. Kohler only had around 1000 HP left, which was the killing line of his skill. Since you're already here, why are you in such a hurry to leave? Link's eyes were fixed on Kohler's dagger. He'd thought that killing Matthew would serve as an example to others. He'd also used the information he'd gathered to stem the 3 major factions and reduce their strength. He didn't expect Moro's personal secretary, Kolar, to create the Matthew Upanishad. It could be said that this was the butterfly effect caused by Link. With the epic equipment Kolar's dagger in front of him, Link would not let go of this great opportunity. With this dagger, his figure and mobility would be greatly increased. He could appear and disappear unpredictably, and with the combination of skills, he would be like a tiger that had grown wings. Link waved his wrist, and 3 whistle arrows appeared in front of Kolar. If he tried to escape, the arrows would shoot down without hesitation. You really dare to kill me? Kolar glared at Link, his eyes filled with a desire to skin him alive. His words were full of threat. It seems like you didn't learn anything from Moros in the past 6 years. Link laughed. Moros was such a cunning and powerful man, but his secretary was just this weak? She didn't even know what kind of situation she was in, and she was already threatening Link. So what if I kill you? Today, I killed the leader of the Matthew gang, who broke the rules. What does it have to do with Moro's secretary, Kolar? Link's retort left Kolar speechless. The black muzzle of the magic box pistol was pointed at Kolar. Link said coldly, in your next life, don't come to the slums to prove yourself. Times have changed. Bang bang bang. The bullets poured out, but in an instant, there was only a rapid vibration. The next second, a few daggers with bullets embedded in them appeared beneath Link's feet. In the distance, a flying claw rope hooked onto Kolar and pulled hard, lifting him into the air. Kolar grabbed the rope, and a smile appeared on his face. Clan Master Lin, we'll meet again if fate allows it. Link glanced at the masked man who had thrown the grappling hook rope and the smug-looking Kolar. Without a word, he jumped down from the rooftop. Black Tornado, come! The black whirlwind that was bullying noobs downstairs heard the wind and jumped up gracefully, picking Link up in mid-air. Black Tornado's fastest speed increasing skill, flashing wind and lightning, was activated. Wind and lightning surged around his body, and his speed increased by 10 times. At this moment, everyone could only see a shadow flash by. Chapter 307 The arrival of a group of heroes, killing in all directions. The black tornado and Link became one, turning into a black shadow. In the sky, Kolar's smile froze. Even with his eyesight, he couldn't see Link's exact position. He could only see a flash of black approaching quickly. Kolar quickly threw the dagger and flashed to the masked man's side. What are you doing here? Although the man's face was covered, Kolar could tell that he was Tai, one of the 4 heavenly kings under Moros. The encirclement plan failed, and the allied army was killed by Link's pet army. The whole of Shitid knows about it, let alone me. Tai braced himself and looked at Link, who was catching up. He immediately got on his motorcycle and said, now is not the time to talk about this, let's go. Wang wang wang. The engine of the motorcycle was like a violent beast, and the loud noise tore through the night sky. The wind whistled in Kolar's ears, and his vision became blurry. Only the black shadow behind him gradually became clear. However, the black whirlwind was extremely fast. Even though the motorcycle was going at full speed, it could not pull away from Link. Instead, it only saw Link and the black whirlwind getting closer and closer. Link held the magic box pistol and fired wildly at the motorcycle. The bullets brushed past him, and a few landed steadily on Kolar's back, causing blood to spray out. Link's black coat fluttered in the wind. Riding on his black horse, he looked like a demon hunter from the Middle Ages. Not far ahead were the 3 big trucks used by Kylan Hall to block the road. The 3 big trucks blocked the road tightly, and the narrowest part was less than 1 meter. It was even more difficult for the high-speed motorcycle to pass through. The macaw, who was lying on the rattan chair, heard the roar of the motorcycle. It straightened its body and wanted to knock on the door, but the motorcycle disappeared in front of its eyes in the next second. Tai drove the motorcycle at an angle that was almost parallel to the ground and passed under the truck. Oh my god, his driving skills are too awesome. The macaw took off its sunglasses and saw the speeding motorcycle from the other side. Suddenly, the macaw felt a shadow looming over its head. Black Tornado jumped up high, his body slender and beautiful, directly jumping over the 5-meter-high truck. Link aimed at the motorcycle not far away and fired the last magic box paintball, which landed steadily on the tire. Bang! Bang! With a burst of flames, the rear tire exploded with a loud bang. The 2 people on the motorcycle were thrown to the ground and rolled along the muddy and dusty road of the slums. Oh my god, this man and horse's one ultimate leap is even more awesome. The macaw was dumbfounded by the brilliant pursuit. Link reloaded his gun and rode towards the 2 on Dark Cyclone. Link glanced at Kohler. He had been shot in the back and was injured from falling from the motorcycle. He only had around 500 HP left. Link, you can't kill him. If you kill him, you'll become the enemy of the entire Sand City. Tai took off his mask and shouted with blood dripping from the corner of his mouth. You can't even save yourself, Link sneered. Who cares about others? Tai's pupils contracted sharply, and his mind went blank. Did Link mean that he wanted to kill him too? Link walked to Kohler's side and loaded his magic box pistol. Just as he was about to kill him when he was down, he was interrupted by a shout. Hold on! Link looked in the direction of the voice and was instantly amused. The chief shaman king of Dasaki led the many shaman doctors and shamans of Dasaki, and the one beside the shaman king was the young shaman king Alan. In the second group, the Freemasonry red-robed bishop held a light staff, followed by Fu, other red-robed elders, and priests, all around him shimmering. The third group was Count Dracula of the Blood Clan of the Hidden Alliance, leading the core family members, including Mr. Kong and Simon. Link had thought that only these 3 forces would come. However, after the 3 teams, there was another path. The 9-patterned dragon and Lei Zhi came side by side. Behind them were the Hatchet Men of the Azure Dragon Hall, the Viper Hall, and the Thunder Tiger Hall. There were at least 100 of them. Link grinned like a child and muttered to himself, I thought they were all hiding in the back and watching the show. It's good that they're here. We can kill them all. Hearing Link's words, Kohler's face turned pale, and a chill ran down his spine. This guy was a lunatic. Link, the 9-striped dragon said. You're trying to start a war in the slums. The boss of the Green Dragon has already had an emergency meeting with the other branches after hearing about this. They've decided to kick you out of the gang. Link exposed the Green Dragon's boss's scheme without hesitation. The 6 halls of the Water Transportation Gang. Without me around, the Azure Dragon and his lackey Zhao Heshan, as well as this Lei Zhi, who is ungrateful for profit, will definitely get the answer we want in a meeting. But that's good. Since you've expelled me from the gang, I'll have less of a psychological burden when I attack later. Link, you've destroyed the stability of the slums and broken the tacit peace between the forces. You're a sinner of the entire slums. Today, the 4 of us will join hands to get rid of you, for the sake of the people. The Cardinal of the Freemasonry was surrounded by the light of justice, and his words were full of confidence. Just you guys? Asked Link. Just then, a number of black-robed figures walked out from the darkness behind Link. A long-eared elf with eyes of various colors appeared. Count Dracula looked at the black-robed man with the silver crescent mark and gasped in surprise. It's the Moon Shadow Council. What are they doing here? When the other leaders saw this scene, they were also stunned. The Moon Shadow Council had always been extremely mysterious. They lived under the Divine Tree and had never been involved in worldly disputes. But this time, they were here. Did they have a grudge against Link too? Elder Lin, we're late. The 5th elder personally led the Moon Shadow Council's druids to Link. His voice wasn't loud, but it wasn't soft either. It was just enough for the 4 major forces in the slums to hear. Elder Lin, I'm here to mediate the dispute, the 5th elder said softly. The Moon Shadow Council was indeed in an awkward position. On one hand, Kolar and Tai were Moro's men. On the other hand, Link was a guest elder of the Moon Shadow Council, a secret weapon against nature's alliance. They couldn't turn a blind eye to Link killing Kolar and Tai, but they couldn't let the four major forces in the slums attack Link either. I didn't expect you guys to come, said Link, smiling. I'll accept this favor, but it's best if you don't get involved in this, or you'll be in trouble. When the four major factions in the slums heard the Moon Shadow Council calling Link Elder, their minds went blank. Since when did Link have any connection with the Moon Shadow Council? He had never heard of it before. But in the next second, many people reacted. The Moon Shadow Council's druids were known for their ability to control wild beasts, and Link was no different. Kolar, who was lying on the ground, was even more fearless when he saw a familiar face. He showed his blood-stained teeth and laughed. Do it. You've made countless enemies in the slums today, and you won't have a place in the Sand City. The fifth elder frowned. Link wasn't someone who would submit to adversity. Kolar still wanted to fan the flames at this time. Was he tired of living? Secretary Kolar, you should also speak less. He quickly advised. However, Kolar's words made Link focus on him again. He laughed and said, Kolar, do you believe that humans have souls? Kolar was taken aback. He didn't know what Link meant, but he still answered according to his thoughts, I believe there is. The fifth elder had a bad feeling. I also think so. Do you think that after a person dies, their soul will ascend to heaven and see everything that is happening on earth? Sure. Link's face broke into a smile. He seemed to like this answer. Then I'm relieved. Since you said that I won't have a foothold in Shandu if I kill you. Then I'll kill you right now. Please watch how I continue to survive in the Sand City while you're in the sky. As soon as Link finished speaking, the magic box pistol's bullets poured out like a storm. In a short while, Kolar, who was lying on the ground, had been shot into a sieve. He couldn't be more dead. The entire street was silent. Everyone's faces were filled with shock. They couldn't believe that Link had really killed Kolar. Chapter 308 Forcing back 100 people with one person. You have killed Kolar with the magic box pistol level 35 plus, elite. You have received 50,000 experience points. Elder Lin. The fifth elder was about to say something, but he felt that it was meaningless. In the end, he sighed. Link squatted down and picked up the Kolar's dagger that he had been dreaming of. The system immediately displayed its superior attributes and effects. Kolar's dagger. Rarity, Epic, Purple. Parameters, Attack Power 100-130, Length 27 cm, Weight 1 kg. Equipment Requirements, LV30 and above, Strength 85, Agility 85. Attribute Bonus, Strength plus 50, Agility plus 50. Special Effect, Flash. The wielder can flash to the location of the dagger unconditionally, no distance limit, consumption, 25 stamina/time. Evisceration deals 150% damage when attacking from the back. Bestowment Extrication 15%/10%/5% chance to deal 3/4/5 times the damage when using Kolar's dagger. Mastery increases the effect of all dagger skills by 15%. In his previous life, Link had only seen the glory of Kolar's dagger through professional league videos. He only knew that blink was the only special effect. Today, he had finally picked up this weapon and could see the whole picture. The weapon's high white damage was shocking. The equipment requirements were not a problem for Lin Ke, but it was not easy for players to achieve. The high attribute bonus was the weapon's highlight. The 100 attribute points were a huge increase compared to the 60 attribute points of Lin Ke's other purple nano battlesuit. Next was the most important reason why the epic weapon from version 1.0 could be used until version 2.0 and even version 3.0. Its special effects. Blink allowed the user to flash to the location of the dagger unconditionally, and it ignored the distance limit, which was quite a bug. In his previous life, the defiant snake god had developed many tactics and small tricks with this dagger. Whether it was an illusion or a control spell, as long as the operation was right, he could use blink to avoid or dispel it. This was the most powerful effect of Kolar's dagger. It was also because of this that the snake god used the same weapon to win the first Interstellar Professional League Championship, the second runner-up, and the third champion. The passive effect of evisceration, bestowment extrication, and dagger mastery also made the weapon very valuable. Through these special effects, the snake god had carefully studied the combination of the main and sub-classes and finally developed the terrifying burst kill stream. Link remembered that during the second Interstellar Professional League, the snake god had used 2 daggers to kill a high HP pugilist with more than 3 times his HP. It had shocked everyone at the time. He was once the idol of all lurker players. Now that Link had obtained this weapon, he was like a tiger that had grown wings. His strength had risen to another level. The original owner of Kolar's dagger is dead. Do you want to bind it to the new owner of the weapon? Yes/no. Prompt: once soul-bound, the weapon cannot be traded or transferred. Link didn't even have to think about it and immediately bound it to the weapon. A feeling of connection between their souls arose spontaneously. The dagger was an extension of his body, as if they were one. Link glanced at Kolar's dagger. There were runic words carved on both sides of the blade. The blade's light was gone. The metal didn't seem to be from Wasteland Planet. The hilt was uneven, like countless squid tentacles twisted into a ball. It was one with the dagger, giving off the impression that the hilt was symbiotic with the dagger. At the bottom of the hilt, there was a big, open eye that looked like it was about to burst. It looked like it was about to escape from the hilt at any moment, and it looked a little strange. Link, you're still laughing. 100 feet away, the people from the 4 forces all thought Link had gone crazy. He had killed the secretary of Moros, one of the 3 emperors of Shitu. There was no place for him in the entire Shitu. It was just that today, the 4 great forces had joined hands to suppress him for the first time. He was already at the end of his road. The elites of the 4 major factions who were blocking the way were not the small-time thugs they had sent before. They were all the trump cards of the 4 major factions. Take the vampires of the Secret Alliance for example. Each of them was wearing a black windbreaker and holding a Thompson submachine gun in their hands. Other than their pale and evil faces, they looked like standard underworld saints. The leaders of the 3 major forces had come in person. The transport gang had also sent out the Red Flower Double-Staff 9-striped dragon. This was the strongest lineup that the slums could muster. If they couldn't keep Link, they could just disband and hang themselves. The macaw glided down from the top of the truck and walked to Link's side. It used its wing to poke Link's leg. I told you, if only you had signed the transfer agreement when you were in Kylan Hall, I could have taken revenge for you in the future. If you don't listen to the old man, you'll suffer a loss in front of you. Now you're dumbfounded. Link laughed, not taking the man seriously at all. You think they'll win? Although there were quite a few elite-level players, the highest level player was the Heavenly King of the East District, Tai, a level 30 elite. Link had the Moonwell water, a divine blood restoring equipment, and a bunch of pets to help him. He still had his strongest skills, Man in the Mirror and Apocalypse, and the 4 gargoyles were his backup. Link didn't even need to do anything. The 4 gargoyles would take turns flying into the crowd and taunting them with their terrifying shrieks. Whoever could remain standing after this round would lose. Thus, in Link's eyes, the 4 forces alliance was nothing. Link stood where he was and took advantage of his out-of-battle state to quickly level up to level 30. In the battle just now, Link's pets had annihilated the 200 or so thugs who had surrounded the building. They had also killed 50,000 experience points from Kolar. Link had gained 158500 experience points in one go. As for the battle in the slums, because of the distance, Lin K did not receive any experience points from the kill. Link now had a total of 620,000 plus experience points in his experience pool. It was a windfall. LV25 level 30 requires 195000 experience points. Do you want to level up? Yes/no. Link chose to level up without hesitation, meeting the requirements for Kolar's dagger to be at level 30. Then, he added 15 points to his strength, fulfilling the condition of 85 points of strength for the dagger. At this point, Link had met all three requirements and was now wearing the first epic weapon he had ever dreamed of. The sudden increase in strength and agility made Link feel like his body was filled with power. At that moment, a mission suddenly appeared in Link's system. You have triggered the NPC mission, the Path of Promotion Leader template. Accept/reject. Mission tip: consult a commander level NPC on the promotion method and complete the promotion requirements. Mission reward: leader level template. Link glanced at it and suppressed his excitement. Instead, he let out a sigh of relief. The NPC promotion mission is finally here. Link had tried to find a way to become a leader but had come up empty-handed. Considering that he had to complete the elite template mission at level 20, Link was looking forward to seeing if there would be any guidance at level 30. It was just as he had expected. Everyone, I believe that the longer Link lives, the more uneasy we will be. Now that we've lost all face, let's not hold back and just go. The one who spoke was the Freemasonry's new red-shirted elder, Fu. The moment he opened his mouth, he fanned the flames. At this moment, the young wizard King Alan from Dasaka's team also stood out. Let's kill Link before his pets react. This way, we can minimize our losses, he said. The crowd glanced at the two of them and sneered in their hearts. They saw through their thoughts with a single glance. If Link wasn't dead, the three traitors of the Kylan Hall would be the ones who couldn't sleep in peace. Only Link's death could cleanse them of the traitorous brand and bring them peace in their hearts. The nine-striped dragon also took the opportunity to shout the slogan, "Kill Link, protect the Sand City." In an instant, the entire main road was filled with the sound of killing. Hehe, since you're all in a hurry to die, I'll satisfy you. Link put away his magic box pistol. With Throat Crusher in one hand and Kolar's dagger in the other, he strolled towards the hundreds of people. On the other hand, the alliance of the four forces took a step back. At that moment, a chuckle came from behind the four forces. Why don't we just drop today's match? As soon as the voice came out, the faces of the leaders of the four forces changed, and they were shocked. P.S. Link's attributes have also been updated. You can take a look at it in the related works. Chapter 309 3 Identities. Tai had been prepared to stop Link first. However, when he heard the voice, his body froze. Then, he put away his weapon and sighed. Since this person had come, today's tough battle would most likely not be fought. At the same time, Tai actually felt a little lucky. He didn't know why, but the four forces had the advantage in numbers. However, he still felt that Link had a backup plan. Moreover, at the moment of life and death, the other deacon of the Kylan Hall and the mysterious manager with the same unfathomable strength did not show up. All of this gave Tai an ominous feeling. Now that this person was here, there was an 80% chance that they wouldn't have to continue fighting today, so he could leave his life and go back to report. Link stopped as well, frowning. The voice carried a lot of weight. It could be seen from everyone's sudden change in expression, but Link couldn't tell who it was. The crowd of the four forces split from behind like a wave. Link was immediately greeted by green camouflage. The man walking in front was wearing the military uniform of the Shandu military commander. His sharp eyes could be seen from 100 meters away. His slightly drooping eye bags and the fat on his cheeks showed that he was not in a good mental state. Under his aquiline nose were two tufts of grey beard. His square face was exhausted, but it was serious and powerful. Then, Link saw Li Zijun, who was following beside the commander with the same serious expression, and the silly Benjamin, who had put on his military uniform. The soldiers behind him all had the words Shadow Fox Hunting Special Forces printed on their epaulets. With that, the identity of the person in the lead was obvious: Commander Mun, Commander-in-Chief of the Fox Hunting Special Forces in Shadow. Link sighed. He had roughly guessed the Mun Kingdom commander's purpose for coming. He had just obtained Kolar's dagger, so he probably wouldn't have the chance to sharpen it today. He sheathed his dagger and waited. The members of the four forces retreated one after another, forced back by Commander Mun's aura. Count Dracula, the red-robed bishop of the Freemasonry, Wizard King Dasaki, and the nine-patterned dragon carefully walked forward to greet him with their eyes flickering. The overbearing air he had just now had completely collapsed with the wind. He was as obedient as a domestic cat of a noble family in the uptown. "Hello, Commander Mun." The Mun Kingdom commander waved his hand and nodded at the four of them. He had no intention of stopping to talk and continued walking towards Link. The four of them looked at each other, but no one dared to ask the Mun Kingdom's commander why he was here. It was the three kings who set the rules for the reconstruction of the slums in Shazhou. No one was allowed to directly interfere with the development of the slums, and the military was no exception. However, there wasn't a reasonable explanation for Commander Mun's visit to the slums and his interference in the internal strife. The four of them knew that Link was on good terms with Commander Mun's son, Benjamin. Would Commander Mun dare to go against the rules set by General Alongso? The four of them were bewildered, but they understood that no matter what happened, it was no longer something they could control. In front of the guns, cannons, and tanks, the so-called force and influence were as fragile as paper. Tai tactfully collected Kolar's body and retreated to the side. The Mun commander walked to Link, his tired eyes finally rejuvenated as he sized him up. Even the normally blabbermouth macaw was blinded by the stars on the Mun Kingdom's commander's epaulette and remained quiet. "You're Link." Commander Mun's deep voice was a question, but his tone was firm. Link nodded and saw that Li Zijun was holding a black brocade box in her hands. He also saw Benjamin, who was wearing a military uniform and pretending to be serious, winking at him. The Mun Kingdom commander raised his hand and Li Zijun opened the black box behind him, taking out a rolled-up document. The Mun Kingdom's commander held his cane in one hand and his cap in his other hand. His posture was unusually standard. "Link, hear my order." Link couldn't help but straighten his back and glance at the four confused faction leaders in the distance. In a moment, the bombshell would be coming. Li Zijun undid the letter of appointment and read it out. On July 5, year 42 of the Wasteland calendar, General Jean Alongso, the Supreme Chief of the Shita Special Administrative Region and the Supreme Commander of the Shita Joint Forces, re-signed. The General Dogs will be reincorporated into the Shita troops and execute the Special Operation Guidelines. We learned that the well-known private entrepreneur Link in Shita has special talents in dog training. We hereby hire Link as the battalion commander of the Shita Special Operation Battalion to guide the Shita military to push the modernization and scale of military dogs as soon as possible. Group, integrate into the mission system of the Shandu Army. Link, accept the appointment. Li Zijun strode over to Link. She rolled up the letter of appointment and presented it to Link with both hands. Link took the letter of appointment with both hands and the corners of his mouth curled up imperceptibly. He made eye contact with Li Zijun. "Thank you for your trust, General Alongso. I won't let you down and will train the best military dogs for Shandu." When the four leaders heard the announcement, they were all dumbfounded and their minds went blank. The arrogant and despotic elite fighters behind him were now pale and felt that their throats were dry and powerless. The person he was about to kill had become the commander of the military battalion, Lao Ai, in just a few minutes. That bastard Link had actually managed to get General Alongso's approval to take up the role of battalion commander of the special forces in Shadow. He was in charge of the taming of all military dogs in Shadow. He had transformed from a bumpkin to an upper-class person in an instant. The four of them looked at each other. How could they fight now? Link was an official. If they attacked again, it would be the same as attacking the Shudu military. Was he tired of living or was he tired of dying? Tai, who was standing at the side, was also dumbfounded. He would never have thought that Link would actually become a member of the military. Looking at Kohler's corpse on the ground, she thought of what Link had said not long ago. I hope you'll watch from heaven how I survive in the Sand City. Not only did Link survive, he even rose higher. Kohler, it seems like you can't get your revenge, Tai sighed helplessly. At this point, anyone who dared to touch Link would be going against General Alongso. Moreover, Link was the assassin from Platinum Hotel recommended by the painter John, the hall master of Kylan Hall in the slums, and now the battalion commander of the Special Forces. All three identities corresponded to the three kings of the Sand City. In the 40 years since the Sand City was rebuilt, Link was the only one who could control three different forces. The Mun Kingdom commander put on his commander's hat again and leaned on his metal staff. Young man, you're not bad, and your horse is not bad either. The Mun Kingdom's commander had been in the military for half his life and could tell that the black tornado behind Link was extraordinary. It was far superior to any military horse he had seen before. Link's face was calm as he said humbly, "You're too kind, Commander." The Mun Kingdom's commander took 2 steps forward and patted Link's shoulder. "Thank you for taking care of my son while I was away. I'll have to trouble you again in the future, Ying Luo." The Mun Kingdom's commander didn't finish his sentence, but Link knew that he had another form of gratitude. It seemed like Li Zijun had told Commander Mun about her plan and the Mun Kingdom had decided to make Benjamin their assistant to boost their status in the army. "It's fate that I met Benjamin," Link said, smiling. "I'll help if I can. But Commander, I still have a question. Now that I've accepted the letter of appointment, does it mean that I'm officially in the military?" The Mun Kingdom commander squinted his eyes as though he had guessed Link's intention. "Today, you've only accepted the certificate of appointment. You'll have to report to the military on a working day to have your clothes tailored for you and have a file set up before you're officially employed." Link's eyes lit up with joy. "In other words, I'm not a real member of the military yet, so I can still help you." Tai suddenly had a bad feeling after hearing Link's words. In the distance, the Allied forces heard Link's words. Their pupils shrank and their teeth trembled. They had already guessed what Link was going to do. This man is a madman. Chapter 310 The fourth largest force in Shandu. "Commander Mun, if you don't mind, please give me a minute." Commander Mun shrugged his shoulders and expressed his pleasure. He also wanted to see what kind of strength this person, who was praised by Li Zijun and his silly son, had. Li Ziqi's lips twitched. This fellow was really arrogant. On the other hand, Benjamin's face was full of anticipation, but he did not dare to show it too much for fear of being caught by his father. He wanted to laugh, but he did not dare to laugh. He looked forward to it, but he did not dare to make a sound. Tai didn't want to be targeted, so he picked up Kohler's body and ran away without saying a word. Link glanced at Tai's back as he left, but he didn't stop him. Their main target was still the 4 major forces in the slums. It was not the time to confront Moros. Zheng Zheng. 2 daggers were thrown out, with Throat Crusher and Kohler's daggers lined up on the left and right. In the middle of the night, the main road of the slums was empty because of the battle. The doors and windows of the houses and shops on the roadside were locked, and the curtains were tightly closed. No one dared to peek through the cracks, for fear of attracting a fatal disaster. The people of the 4 forces were in a dilemma. Attack. Link had now received a letter of appointment personally issued by General Alongso and was already a member of the military. If they made a move now and Link was caught red-handed, they wouldn't be able to clear their names. Injuring a battalion commander and challenging the authority of the authorities was a serious crime. However, if they didn't do anything, not only would the 4 forces fail to kill Link, but they would also lose a lot of their own combat power. It was a double loss. In the future, Link would have 3 identities and would be even more unrestrained. Now, the 9-patterned dragon and 9-finger thunder's faces were pale. Especially Lei Zhi, who hated himself for being greedy. Why did he have to get involved? Now that they had offended Link, they would definitely not have a good time in the future. The 9-patterned dragon was the same. Originally, this plan could have been carried out in secret, and the water transportation gang did not need to stand out and express their attitude. However, the Green Dragon boss was too anxious. Link's speed of growth had reached an unstoppable level. Facing such a serious threat to his status, the Green Dragon boss would seize any opportunity to kill Link. So this time, after contacting the Hidden Alliance and learning that the three forces would jointly punish Link, the Green Dragon's boss expressed that he had laid his cards on the table and stopped pretending. He had wanted to deal with Link for a long time. This was why he had the 9-striped dragon and the Thunder 9-finger come over. They wanted to expel Link from the gang in front of the other three forces to sever their ties. However, they did not expect Link, who was bound to die, to become the commander of the military battalion. Things had taken a turn. Link began to accelerate his charge towards the four forces. The back of the big truck suddenly made a buzzing sound. The invisible killer bees and silver army ants swarmed over and appeared behind Link to help him. Then, a deafening shout came from behind the truck. The battle in the shanty town had come to an end. In the narrow space, no one was a match for the small creatures like the illusionary vine and the Black Widow. The members of the Kylan Hall, both inside and outside, only needed to communicate through radio to suppress the enemy with firepower. The rubber snake, the three lucky treasures, and the silver army ant would handle the rest. The skeleton wolves and hellhounds kept wandering around the shanty town, killing the enemy deserters who were alone. When the allied forces of the four great forces saw and heard such a commotion, they had long lost the confidence to resist. At this moment, the army was defeated. However, before they could react, a dagger with a sharp edge had already flown in front of them and stabbed into the chest of one of the red-robed elders. Elder Hong Yi's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. His eyes were wide open as he looked at the dagger that had completely sunk into his chest. He opened his mouth but could not say a single word. The people around the Freemasonry were also stunned. The next second, they reacted and retreated. Link suddenly appeared behind the red-robed elder. He pulled out Kolar's dagger with one hand and slit his throat with the other. With each stroke, a pillar of blood and a mist of blood burst out from his chest and neck at the same time, just like a blood feast. The blood clansmen at the side saw the blood mist that filled the sky, and their natural blood-drinking instinct was immediately activated. Their throats couldn't help but start to move. But soon, fear welled up in his heart, and he subconsciously began to retreat. Lin Ke looked at the high damage values of 358,561 and 822 displayed in front of his eyes. He suddenly had the pleasure of cutting grass. Next, Link locked onto the Archcardinal. The Archcardinal and Link's eyes met, and they instantly had a bad feeling. Ah Fu, who was beside him, was also shocked. He quickly took out his strengthening backpack and put it on the Archcardinal. "Boss, I'm sorry." Ah Fu's hands were as fast as lightning, and she instantly put the Archbishop back in place, then tied the bag and carried him on her shoulder again. Just as Kolar's dagger reached Fu's entire body suddenly turned translucent and spiritualized. The dagger passed through his body and landed on an unlucky priest behind him. In an instant, the spiritualized Fu passed through all the physical bodies and went straight through the thick walls of the building, disappearing without a trace. Link flashed onto the unlucky priest and used another garrote backstab, instantly killing the elite priest with 1000 HP. Only 20 seconds had passed since Link's 1 minute. To everyone, it was a long minute. However, the coalition of the four forces did not want to carefully taste this hard-won 1 minute like a PE patient. They only hoped that time would pass faster and faster. The invisible killer bees and the silver army ants also entered the crowd, causing even more chaos. Link searched for the four leaders in the chaotic crowd. Next, Shaman King Dasaki. Alan's reaction was extremely fast. After Afu spiritualized and escaped, he immediately dragged the Shaman King away from the scene and instructed the other shamans to cover the retreat. Link flashed all the way, killing many shamans in his way. Some were even taken away by Link with garrots and backstabs before they could even bring out their idols. Simon and Mr. Kong, one on the left and one on the right, held Count Dracula's hand and retreated. The Blood Clan team exploded into a thick blood mist. A moment later, all the members transformed into vampire bats and fled in all directions. Just as the vampires were rejoicing in their escape, 2 gargoyles suddenly appeared in the sky. They followed behind the vampire bats and let out terrifying shrieks. The ultrasonic waves distorted the air, and many vampire bats fell from the sky with a scream. They turned back into human forms, bleeding from their 7 orifices and trembling. With the 3 forces fleeing, Link only had 20 seconds left. Link then turned to look at the transport gang. Lei Zhuzi had already fled, leaving only the 9-patterned dragon and his men from the Azure Dragon Hall and the Viper Hall. "All right, I choose you." Link had a deep impression of the 9-striped dragon. Although it was a level 25 elite, it had a specialty that Link was extremely envious of: the Double Dragon Life Providence. Double Dragon Life Providence, with the life providence of 2 dragons, you can bring prosperity to your master and obtain 10% of your master's attributes as your own additional attributes. Link and the 9-striped dragon fought and forced the dragon into a small alley. For the loyal 9-patterned dragon, he had been inseparable from the boss of Azure Dragon for more than 20 years. It was almost impossible to persuade him to surrender. Link couldn't do anything to a living person, but he had many ways to deal with a dead person. After killing the 9-striped dragon, Link looked into the dark alley and said, "I came down to see you." Then, he turned around and left the alley. When Link walked out of the alley, the Mun Kingdom commander glanced at his watch and saw that it had been exactly 1 minute. "I'm afraid that after today, even the sand will change, hee hee."